You're watching Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. The lunchroom is open. And today the main course, as usual, every single day, we're the only show on television that talks about cryptocurrency. Joining us today, Jeff Nabers. Jeff Nabers is the managing partner of Coin Capital. Jeff, thanks for joining us today on Liquid Lunch. And Jeff, our audience, we try to bring them the basics on cryptocurrency, on Bitcoin and blockchain, and we try to bring the regular man's point of view so people could start understanding this thing. Guys like you need to help us give our audience a little plain talk, and of course my executive producer, Frank Morano, joins us in this segment as well, and Frank, for the most part, has been cynical of digital assets, of cryptocurrency. He's quite skeptical, and I call him my crypto crash dummy, because if we get out of this segment and he feels like he's learned something, then our audience has won. We've won. You did a great job, and we will probably have you back. But I know what you want to talk about is this series that you have out there, The Evolution of Money. And why don't you give our audience what they can learn in the evolution of money?
Yeah, so we use money as our unit of account, how we measure our finances. And the big story is really that money is changing. You know, currencies don't last forever. Currencies can lose their value. And when you take a closer look at that story, it can help you measure risk with your investments and uncover opportunities.
So the evolution of money kind of gives people an understanding of, here's how it started. There was a little tadpole, it landed on the ground, it grew legs, it started to crawl, then it stood up, and it was half hunched over, and all of a sudden, voila, there's a US dollar. Is that kind of?
Yeah,
is that Darwin? Is that too Darwinian?
Well, if you want to get Darwinian, it gets to a cycle.
Yeah.
And you know, historically, what we've seen in that cycle is it gets to a point where rulers print too much money, it debases the value, sort of like diluting a stock, and usually the cycle ends in the industrial era, at least. It ends with returning to gold, and that's kind of what introduced me to crypto. Is people return to gold as a store of value, but now we live in a digital world, and there's this thesis growing in popularity out there that returning to gold this time might be digital gold, and that digital gold might be Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency.
Well, so the evolution of money, that refers to the next phase of using currency, which is digital currency?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's a currency use case for this. There's you know, the field of money spans, you know, money itself, but then also the investments in the financial system that's built on money itself. So you know, there's that story I know you guys have covered of tokenization, where we're starting to see assets become tokenized. So you can have money in this space of blockchains. You can also have securities, private companies, real estate. So I see this as the whole thing's getting kind of a makeover from money to investments themselves.
So how can people see that evolution of money if they want to check it out online?
Sure, yeah. So they can go to evolution.money. If you just type that in your browser, kind of like a .com, but evolution.money.
And the whole reason that money has value, the whole reason that I enjoy being paid, you know, for this show in US dollars is because I can.
Paying you?
Well,
hey,
some weeks I wait.
They're paying me in Bitcoin.
Some weeks I wait more than others.
On that one, I'm going to need a drink. I didn't know I was paying this guy.
But honestly, Jeff, is I can go downstairs and take my payment for today's show and use it to buy a martini. I can't, if I were to be paid in Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the 9,000 other cryptocurrencies that are out there, I can't take it downstairs and use it to buy a martini. So,
but you can use it at Overstock.com, the first e-commerce company to use and accept Bitcoin. And don't forget, if you're watching at home, at Overstock.com, the more you shop, the more you save.
No, but Jeff, seriously, aside from as an investment vehicle, how close are we to digital currencies being used as actual money that people want to be paid in and purchase goods in?
Yeah, you're speaking to a phenomenon known as the network effect, and in the early days of a network, it's a con. So, you know, when you were one of the first few people that got email, not many people had email, so it wasn't that useful. And it seems like a chicken and egg situation. Everybody, you know, bets against it, has skepticism, but over time, the more people that join the network, the more valuable the network becomes. And as we saw in the past few weeks here, now you can spend Bitcoin at Starbucks, Whole Foods, and a host of other retailers. And I think by the end of the year, we're going to see even more come on board. So what you're speaking about is a real concern, but you probably won't be able to say that to the same extent at the end of the year.
You know, Jeff, I like what you were just saying, that, you know, first it's a con, right? And Gandhi had this saying, right, that first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then you win. It kind of is the same progression of what you're talking about. Many people are like, get out of here with that Bitcoin, and then it came out and it started percolating and running up, and then the mainstream and the institutions were like, right? And I think right about now, after the 20,000 run up, it came back down to 4,000 or 5,000. It accumulated a little bit. Now it's starting to percolate up 7,000, 8,000. I think it's an alt investment. It's not correlated to anything, so more people are saying, well, you know what? Instead of gold, maybe I can get this thing, because I can't carry a nugget of gold around in my pocket, but I can carry around some digital assets in my phone, and I can spend them somewhere. So I think you're onto something, and I want to check out this evolution of money.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one aspect of the story to what you were just speaking about is, you know, when we look at a place like Venezuela, Venezuela has money problems that are different than our problems. So to an American, Bitcoin is volatile. To a Venezuelan, Bitcoin is stable.
Right.
And, you know, we see stories, I think the New York Times covered it a few weeks ago, of people escaping Venezuela, where the escape for their survival actually was only made possible by Bitcoin, for the exact fact that you're talking about. They can escape with the keys to the Bitcoin in their phone, or even memorized.
And I've said on the show many times before that one of mostly every male's greatest fear is for their wife or significant other to have all their money in their phone with no measure on it. So this could be detrimental to married men and their finances. Yeah. But the other thing is, when you're talking about Venezuela and this stuff, I see great applications in cross-border payments, right? Because if you're a legal immigrant, and you work here in America, and your family's back in Venezuela or Mexico or wherever, you get your $400, $500, $700 paid for that week in cash, maybe, and then you want to send money home. So you go to Western Union, and they charge you 5 or 10% on this side. And then when your family goes to pick it up, they charge them another 5 or 10% on that side. And your $500 looks like $400 when it gets there. And I think that, to me, that's a first adopter for cross-border payments, because you can get Bitcoin cross borders for free if you have a wallet.
Absolutely, and you know, this is kind of one area where you know, being an American is so amazing. You can travel so far and wide without having to really feel like you're crossing any border. So Americans don't do cross-border transactions as often as people in other countries do. But when you look at the economy from the global scale, there's so much cross-border payments happening that's a big use case for cryptocurrencies.
All right, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on Liquid Lunch. You've been a fantastic guest.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be back. You at home watching, check out the evolution of money. Go to evolution.money, and you'll find out how all this stuff started and potentially how it could end. Frank, final question. Did you learn anything today?
I absolutely did, and I'm going to watch this Evolution of Money series myself.
Fantastic. So, Jeff, you passed the test. You'll be back again.